gather here as a community for the 2019 Baccalaureate and 9th grade recognition to honor our soon departing 9th graders. More than ever, I feel like this day has really snuck up on us, and I sincerely hope that we can all slow down a bit and appreciate the beautiful home that we have here and the people who share it with us. This assembly provides a time to prepare for the farewells to come, but also to celebrate the good work that happens each day on the Point. As is tradition, we will have a faculty speaker set the tone for the afternoon, and I am excited to hear what my esteemed colleague has prepared for us. He serves this community with passion and vigor. He lives, promotes, upholds, and sustains the Cardigan way. Most importantly, and what I appreciate the most about him, he cares deeply for his students and goes out of his way to learn about them and to help them succeed. I am grateful for his enthusiastic dedication, and we are fortunate to hear from him today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Lawson.
Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Day, my fellow faculty members, families, and you boys. Last week, I was talking with Miss Halishka, and she shared with me that by stretching your arms and making your body feel as big as possible, your brain releases endorphins that make you feel more confident. I'm not going to do that because I think the laughter that would ensue afterwards would make me feel the exact opposite. So instead, I'm just going to stand up here nervous, a little bit sweaty, and hope I can do this moment justice. I have to admit, I'm both honored and terrified to be speaking to you today. I realize that if you know me, you'd never guess that talking is something I find intimidating. But at a few hundred people, a microphone, several recording devices, and the man who decides whether I get paid or not sitting in front of me, and here we are. I also felt that it would be a bit hypocritical for me, the teacher who makes his students sing karaoke when they're late to class, to decline an invitation to address the class of 2019. So here we are. If I'm willing to basically shove you out of your comfort zone, I better be willing to leave my own. Many of you may remember Mr. Holt's speech from last year. Maddie Chow, where are you? Don't worry, I know my speech won't be as good as Mr. Holt's. I'm well aware of that. I can't regale you with the wonders of artificial maple syrup, or suspenders, or mismatched socks, but I've accepted that following him is a truly impossible task, and I'll do my best. Boys, I'm going to need you, or I'm going to ask you politely to do a few things before you leave Cardigan. And the first one's easy. On Sunday, you'll have the opportunity to thank the people who have made this experience possible. Find your family first and thank them. Their sacrifices and their decision to provide you with an extraordinary education are the reasons you're here. Having you away from home every day for most of the year is more difficult than you'll ever know. I'll start by offering my thanks to your families. You place immeasurable trust in us. And for that, I think I can speak for my colleagues when I say we are very grateful. Next, sometime this week, find the faculty member or members that pushed you to be the best version of yourself. Whether it was on the field, in the dorm, or in the classroom, someone here believed in you and challenged you to not accept mediocrity. Always thank people who don't let you settle for anything less than your very best. And finally, for you 9th graders, embrace the remaining time you get to spend together. You've made it through something challenging. Cardigan's a lot of things, however, easy is not one of them. Enjoy the friendships that have endured here, say your goodbyes, but look back fondly. So now, time for the advice part. The first piece of advice I'll give you is a simple one. It costs nothing to be kind. We've all felt the urge to say something mean-spirited or rude in a moment of frustration, but what does it accomplish? People don't always remember what you've taught them or what you've said to them, but they usually remember how you made them feel. Nobody's perfect, but try your hardest to never make someone feel as if they are less than. Next, take your own advice. If you're willing to tell someone else how to deal with a difficult situation, remember the advice you gave them when you are going through a challenge. It's part of being introspective, looking inward, and frankly, that can be very scary. You can't fool the man in the mirror, so don't try. Another piece of advice, nothing replaces a firm handshake and good eye contact. Now, I say that as I'm reading this off a paper and making terrible eye contact, but I think you guys get the point. Whether we like it or not, our increasingly technological age these skills are becoming less valued. People communicate through email, text, and social media, and due to this, personal conversation is becoming increasingly challenging. Be the person that can introduce himself confidently and politely. Listen to other people's ideas. Disagreement and discussion are also becoming lost arts in the modern world. We'd rather argue than listen to the ideas of others. Allow yourself to accept the fact that you can learn from people who have a very different perspective. Don't think about winning an argument. Instead, think about learning more about a topic. Not everything is a contest. That being said, when something is a contest, don't let anyone outwork you. This is perhaps the hardest piece of advice to follow. But view your daily struggles as opportunities to improve and grow, not as something to be complained about. Resilience is always in high demand, but often in short supply. Our greatest opportunities in life are usually the result of adversity, not the results of success. It's interesting, a baccalaureate speech is meant to usher you on towards a world that awaits you. Well, I'm going to tell you something that you probably already know. You've all got a few more years before you enter that world. This idyllic school in rural New Hampshire, despite all its wonderful qualities, is not an accurate representation of the real world. Frankly, your next destination probably isn't either. So this is my final piece of advice. Enjoy the time you get to spend in places that are designed to help you become the best version of yourself. I'm going to say that again. Enjoy the time you get to spend in places designed to help you become the best version of yourself. You will certainly miss them once you've moved on. My favorite author, Norman Maclean, sums up life's challenges and how to respond to them rather bluntly, but also beautifully, I think. Here's a quote from him. Sometimes, all you have left to win is the knowledge of why you're taking the beating and the realization that nobody else is going to save you from it. Life will present you with seemingly unendurable challenges. Deal with them head on, because there will be a time where there's no safety net. In closing, I'm really unsure of what to say. How do you sum up a class that's been here for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and done an extraordinary job in this community? I think I'll keep it simple and thank you, boys, and your families. Through success and challenges, you're the reason we are here. You give this place life, and you give it purpose. I personally will be forever grateful for the opportunity to be a member of this community, and I thank you.
Next up is Mr. Novak with the Dorm Citizenship Awards.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you, Mr. Lawson. That was awesome. The Dorm Citizenship Award recognizes students who, in the eyes of their fellow residents, have been the most positive, kind, and helpful citizen throughout the year in their respective dorms. Today, we celebrate 8 ninth grade students who have earned this recognition. For Brewster 1, Leopold Dorillis. Brewster 2, Jimmy Wu. For Clark Morgan, Geronimo Del Valle. For Franklin, Ben King. For Fennell, Isaac Abbott. For Hinman 1, Mati Pena. For McCusker 1, Tony Karandi. And for McCusker 2, Junyoung Bak.
Next up is Ms. Illich with the Art Award.
This student has demonstrated a love of the visual arts in and out of the classroom throughout his time at Cardigan. He has not only exhibited a high level of proficiency in digital arts and photography, but also a passion for drawing and painting. You can often find him in the art room on a Thursday or a Sunday afternoon or during study hall. It gives me great pleasure to present the Scholastic Arts Award to Tom Zhang.
Next up is Mr. Franco with Music Award.
The gentleman to whom I have the privilege of bestowing this award has made an extraordinary contribution to the community, both through his talents, bringing joy to everybody through the concerts, and embodying all the core values at Cardigan through music, and showing us all the values, whether it's helping move equipment after the concerts, helping plan concerts. I always see him doing a job other than his own, and using that to make this a better school through music in every aspect of the word. I'd like to award the Music Award to Jack Armstrong.
Next up is Mr. Bird with the Woodworking Award.
The Golden Hammer Award is presented once a year to honor a student who embraces the ideals of the woodworking program and who develops a true spirit of craftsmanship for the work he produces. The student creates a detailed scale drawing, calculates the materials needed, and cuts out all the components and assembles them using a variety of gluing, clamping, fastening techniques. Mistakes are inevitable. The student must figure out ways to correct or mask those mistakes. New tricks are learned along the way. Several days of sanding are followed by staining and finish coating, more sanding, more finish coats, till the final outcome is achieved. It's a long, yet so valuable process requiring the woodworker to imagine a final outcome and then determine all the steps it takes to execute it. This year's recipient of the Golden Hammer Award is, by the way, it's a real hammer. In the old days, they used to spray paint a cheap hammer and paint it gold and then hand it out. This is a really, really nice S-wing hammer. I have one of these. I've had the same one for 32 years. And like a good education, so a good hammer. This year's recipient is Sam Harris.
Next up is Mr. Good with the Theater Arts Award.
We will most definitely miss the class of 2019, especially in the theater arts. They are an exceptionally talented group. This year's graduates have all contributed their talents, whether in class, in our fall or spring productions. And most of you out there have experienced the necessary courage required to step out in front of your peers and present a devised story or scene of your own creation. And some have experienced the courage needed to step out in front of the entire school. Some have even stepped outside of themselves and offered us characters beyond our imagination. The individual I'd like to recognize today has expressed his talent in many artistic forms. He is not just theater. He is an artist with a capital A. I had the fortune to work several times with him in drama class for 2 terms and in 4 shows. I was impressed immediately with his passion for performance, and then again with his commitment to the craft of acting. Whether it was Shakespeare's noble Mark Antony, or the primitive Caliban, or the comic slick movie producer, or a disturbed tooth fairy in a tutu. He dove into each part, opened himself up to us, and captured our attention. It is what actors aspire to do. This year's Theater Arts Award goes to Jerry Wang.
Next up is Mr. Frost with the James and Marion Sportsmanship Award.
The James N. Marion Sportsmanship Award, awarded to the student athlete in each grade for their enduring athletic sportsmanship, who in the eyes of the entire coaching staff best embodies the true spirit of the Cardigan Mountain School athletic program. The 2019 James N. Marion Sportsmanship Award for the 9th grade goes to Isaac Abbott.
Next up is Mr. Wennick with the Edward A. Barney Written Expression Prize and the Edison Memorial Prize for Creative Writing.
Good afternoon. The Edward Barney Award is an annual award. The Barney Writing Competition was established several years ago in an effort to celebrate student writing and creativity. Each year, the English department hosts a timed creative writing competition for students in all grades. Participants have 1 hour to produce a response to a writing prompt. The students are judged on their creativity and clarity of writing by an independent panel of judges. This year, 98 students entered the competition, and the winner of this year's Barney Writing Competition is Jun Yun Bak. The Addison Writing Award. This particular award has been given since 1962. The Addison Writing Award is presented by the English department each year to a student in the 9th grade who has been the most effective and capable, thoughtful writer in all of his work. Over the course of this year, Ms. Fideli, Mr. Wright, and I have enjoyed teaching some really wonderful students. However, together we have selected the one student whose portfolio of written work in both prose and poetry has proven to be the most effective use of expository and creative writing over the course of this year. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the English department and the 9th grade English teachers to present this award to Tony He.
Next up is Mr. Capro and Mr. Doherty with the Scholastic Recognition.
Thank you, Hugh. The Scholastic Recognition Awards are given to those students who have excelled in an area of study. Teachers from each grade level had the difficult task of narrowing down that list of qualified and deserving students to just one winner per subject. The scholars who are about to be called up earned high marks. However, they're being honored today for their passion, dedication, and commitment to learning. Boys, when you're called by Mr. Capro, please come down to receive your award.
For English, Tony Karandi. For mathematics, Ryan Chang. For history, Geronimo Del Valle. For science, Tony He. For world language, Trey An. For English as a second language, Santi Concha. And for Peaks, Gerardo de Rueda.
Next up is Maxinaku with the Outstanding Underclassman Award.
It is my honor to announce that this year's recipient of the Outstanding Underclassman Award is Bryce Terry.
Next up is Mr. Leroy with faculty recognition.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we near commencement and celebrate the success of our students today, specifically our ninth graders, we also want to recognize the tireless work of a small number of faculty that will be departing us this year. I'd first like to recognize a small group that have been with us for under 5 years. These educators are Mr. Estridge, Ms. Halushka, Mr. Trotsky, Coach Figueredo, Mrs. Rinkin, and Mr. Bartolis. Please join me in thanking this group for their service. The next faculty member that I'd like to recognize has been with us for the past 6 years, in many roles as a teacher, but most recently as our Director of Studies. Mr. Doherty has worked tireless hours for you, the boys, for us, the faculty. He's had a long-lasting effect in just a short time. We will miss him truly. Please join me in thanking Mr. Doherty. Our last faculty member to recognize that will be departing us has been with our community for 8 years. He wears many hats: teacher, coach, specifically baseball coach, department chair, dorm parent, haircut policeman. As you heard in his words, he cares tremendously about this school. He will be sorely missed. His connection with you boys is tremendous and has had a lasting effect on everyone here. He will be missed, Mr. Lawson. Also, it is the Cardigan tradition to recognize faculty members who have reached the admirable milestone of 15 years of service. This year, we'll celebrate that milestone with 4 current members, one being a staff member who's had an overall effect on our community. Mr. Dunham in athletics, Mr. and Mrs. Bayreuther in admissions, and Mr. Sinclair. Each of these members of our community will receive a Cardigan chair for their 15 years of service at the end of the year community dinner. First off, I'd like to ask Mr. Dunham to come forward as Mr. Frost speaks on his behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Leroy and the Cardigan community. Today I have the distinct pleasure to speak to you about my coworker and friend, Mr. Alan Dunham. I will try to keep this brief, as I know it makes Mr. Dunham uncomfortable to be up here in front of all of you. With that said, it will not be too quick. It is great fun to turn the celebration spotlight on him and all he does for all of us. He deserves the extra attention. In my early years, I'm sure I frustrated Mr. Dunham with all my new ideas and thoughts on how we could do things more efficiently or improve the program we were offering. Over time, I have been happy to see all the new ideas and thoughts on how we could do things better or more efficiently now come from Mr. Dunham and his team, as they are always looking to improve our program we offer. I travel to lots of schools and see lots of games, facilities, and equipment rooms. I would challenge anyone to find a group of coworkers or a program that works as hard or runs as smooth as the program Mr. Dunham manages with his team. I come to work every day knowing that all the little things that go on behind the scenes will be done. They don't even cross my mind because I know Mr. Dunham and his team have them covered. Every time we show up for practice or games, our practice clothes are clean, our uniforms are ready and waiting for us, the facilities are clean and well maintained, everything is taken care of every day. I know as a coach when I show up to the game, all I will need to do is worry about coaching my team, because the fields are lined, the cones are out, the goals are ready, the scoreboard is on and working, and all the little things have been taken care of. A particular area that Mr. Dunham takes great pride in is the ice hockey rink and the ice surface itself. He, I'll knock on some wood, has never had a team miss a practice, a game, or even a shift on the ice. This is due in large part to his dedication and tireless work ethic behind the scenes to keep the rink running through power outages, storms, humidity, broken glass, broken Zambonis, and a long list of other issues that seem impossible to deal with, but go unnoticed by all of us because he and his team take care of them every day. When reaching out to his coworkers, here are some of the thoughts they had to share. Through my time here at Cardigan, many things have changed, but one thing has stayed the same. The desk next to mine has been Mr. Dunham's. For 13 years, Mr. Dunham has not only been my coworker, he has been one of my best friends. He is the type of person that when I am in a pinch and need help, he is the first person I call. Whether there's a problem at work or at home, he is there for me. I am proud to have stayed together. I am proud that we have stayed together as a team for so long, and I know it is because of the support we give one another. In 2015, the Cardigan Athletic Department was recognized by the National Athletic Administrators Association as an exemplary athletic program. Much of this is due to the work done by Mr. Dunham behind the scenes each and every day. Mr. Dunham, I know Coach Marion would be very proud of you. Mr. Dunham is a dedicated, tireless worker. He is someone who can always be counted on to lend a helping hand. He is passionate about many things, and one of his top passions is Cardigan and Cardigan athletics. Mr. Dunham is the kind of guy that always looks out for his team. He once spent an entire weekend working in the rink when we were shorthanded and he was very sick. He did this to ensure that the ice got done and that one of his teammates, who was not ready to drive the Zamboni yet, was not put in a situation that made him uncomfortable or a danger to himself or others. Mr. Dunham loves working with everyone in our community. He loves being able to help the students and coaches from Cardigan or any school who visits our campus. He takes great pride in providing a service to others and doing all he can to ensure the experience is top-notch. Mr. Dunham is truly instrumental in making everything successful for the athletic department. His 15 years of service is a testament to his hard work and dedication to our community. It is with great pleasure and pride that I say congratulations, thank you, and I hope we can keep you around for another 15 years or more. Thank you, my friend.
Next up, I'd like to bring up Mr. and Mrs. Bayreuther and Mr. Gray to speak on their behalf.
Roy, ninth grade, you're almost there. Keep working hard right to the very end here. I think this will be my one chance at wishing you all congratulations, and it's just a beginning. 15 years ago, which is a lifetime for you, to put it in perspective, when the Bayreuther started 15 years ago, they were a lot younger, the school was a lot younger, and they've taken their Bay way and kind of influenced the school in every imaginable category: mind, body, and spirit. As teachers, advisors, as parents of 3 Cougars, now past parents. They just embraced school life the way that you want an adult to embrace school life, and then they just shared their love of learning. They shared their love and kindness with one another as role models. And quick math from an English teacher would suggest that it's over 3,000 Cougar lives you've affected. But that's just the boys that were here when they were here for these 15 years. I want to highlight 3 of the boys they influenced, because I think it speaks to how your influence here on someone, Mr. and Mrs. Bayreuther, it travels beyond the Cardigan walls you see here. The first guy, Miles Smith, was one of the first Harlem lacrosse boys that came up to Cardigan. About 10 years ago, that program was started. Is that the right math? So Miles went to Kent School afterwards and then became the vice president of the student body at Bates College. So you can imagine the influence that someone like Miles had at Kent, but then in college as well. And I think that's a great example of someone who felt the Bay way, took the Bay way with him to Kent, brought it to Bates, and I think your influence goes
far, far beyond just the inside the walls here. Two other guys that come to mind who are similar to Miles would be Bear Lokshin, who is the captain or a tri-captain of the Westminster lacrosse team down in Connecticut, and Suleiman Bayo. Again, these are guys that came in here not really knowing what to wear, not knowing anyone's name, where to go, and the Bayruthers just took them under their wings, gave them cardigan blazers, helped them out with the dress code, pointed out influential and important boys that might help them along the way. And that happened in history classes, life skills classes, it happened in the chapel, it happened in life science class, and honestly, I can't even remember what that class was all about. What was life science class? Was that like a life skills class?
Yeah, it was life skills.
Life skills. Mr. Bayreuther, you may or may not know, is responsible for the golf cart that admissions has. He had an athletic injury, and he, with some generous help from Mr. Clark, Dudley Clark, got a golf cart so that he could continue with his coaching and his teaching. And I think the golf cart that's parked behind you, that shining, beautiful example of a way of sharing the community, that was a tool that was a Bay Way kind of innovation. So thank you for that. I noticed Juno Cowan's enjoying a drive around campus today as part of an auction item. Another Bay Way auction item, a fundraiser for the school, was this lobster trip you could purchase at the auction, a day going out on a lobster boat with the Bayruthers and then a big lobster cookout. But these are all examples of the influences they've had. And it seems like a lobster trip, a drive all the way to the Maine seacoast, get on the boat, go out into the ocean, would be extraordinary in terms of time and hours. But that's, again, an example of the way both Mr. and Mrs. Bayreuther just dropped everything to give Cardigan Cougars the best possible experience they could have. Before Fennell Dorm was called Fennell Dorm, it was called North, and you guys lived in North. You lived in Stoll House, and both of those settings today are wonderful spots for boys to live, but those were places that the Bayreuther family made their own. And I think personally, as a father of two boys that have enjoyed friendships with your boys, I truly, from the deep bottom of my heart, want to thank you for that friendship. Your boys and your daughter Morgan have been incredibly helpful to my boys. And so they've been dorm parents, they've been parents, they've been friends, they've been advisors, counselors, influencers. And we'll end it on that note, but I want to thank you for your service, a lifetime for these Cardigan boys, thousands and thousands of Cougars out there in the world. Keep up the good work, and I hope you're here for another 15.
Thank you so much, Coach Gray, Mr. and Mrs. Bayreuther. Last, I'd like to invite Mr. Rinkin, Mr. Sinclair up, please. And we're going to have Mr. Kenny speak on his behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Leroy. It is a distinct honor to share a snapshot of Mr. T. Ryan Sinclair with you, a newly minted 15-year educator at Cardigan Mountain School, loving husband to his wife, Sarah, and a father to his two boys, Niven and Finlay. He has achieved a lot in his time here, serving as a teacher, coach, advisor, dorm parent, and he is a world traveler to more than 70 countries. Mr. Sinclair hails from northern Canada, so far north, in fact, that he likely shared the same zip code with country music star Shania Twain and Santa Claus. He is the youngest of two boys, and his mom, Carol, and his father, Tom, were both teachers. His father has a PhD in education, and so it requires no stretch of the imagination that Mr. Sinclair would be impacted by his parents' achievements and become an educator himself. You have to excuse me here. Mr. Sinclair left home Mr. Sinclair left home at 16, moving to Eastern Ontario to play junior hockey. This must have been an arduous experience for a young man, but Mr. Sinclair was steadfast. While there, he befriended many players still playing today, like San Jose Shark Jumbo Joe Thornton. After showing promise as a young hockey player, as well as demonstrating strong academic ability, Mr. Sinclair enrolled at Dartmouth College. He would find himself to be a bit older than most other students in his freshman class, but would fortify lifelong friendships and find an array of leadership positions on campus. After graduating from college in 2002, he began his first year at CMS. At this point, I did not know Mr. Sinclair very well. He was teaching French and the 6th grade. Once while in the faculty room, I watched Mr. Sinclair stand up for a colleague, Mr. Edwards, who was unfortunately being put down by another faculty member. Any floor leader will tell you how hard it is to confront a peer and tell them that they are making a mistake and that they should stop and change the way they are conducting themselves. It can be hard for adults to do this as well. His ability to stand up for a colleague and to diffuse a tense moment caused me to seek out his friendship. This incident really showed me Mr. Sinclair's courage and integrity, which are traits all my friends must have. I knew he was someone I could likely count on should I ever require it, and this raised him up a notch in my book, and that put him at notch 1. Later that school year, Mr. Sinclair and I traveled to Thailand on spring break of 2003 with some other buddies, and we had a marvelous time exploring this new culture. I taught Mr. Sinclair to rock climb there, and the foundation of a lifelong friendship was solidified. Shortly after this, Mr. Sinclair met a wonderful young lady, Miss Sarah Watson, who would ultimately become Mrs. Sinclair, or as Coach Marion referred to her, Miss Molly McWaters. In 2006, Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair left the U.S. and they both attended graduate school in Grenoble, France for 2 years, where they taught and were also worked to earn their MBAs. I was able to visit there for 3 weeks in March of 2007. I enjoyed the visit a great deal and also enjoyed lots of raclette and tartiflette, amazing melted cheese dishes. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Sinclair proposed to Mrs. Sinclair, and to his good fortune, she said yes. Cardigan was lucky to have the Sinclairs return to the point with their master's degrees. There was a newfound drive and seriousness to Mr. Sinclair that was evident to everyone. Dr. McCormick, Dean of Students at the time, dubbed Mr. Sinclair the Terminator, as his dedication to the total well-being of all his charges in every aspect of school life was clear. Mr. Sinclair began taking boys to South Africa in 2009 with his company Ivy Leader. With the support of his wife Sarah, this program has provided first world students a glimpse into what life is like in disadvantaged countries, including volunteering in areas with severe levels of poverty and destitution. Whether visiting an orphanage for children with AIDS or completing volunteer work at a rural school outside Johannesburg, Mr. Sinclair has provided a once-in-a-lifetime experiences for many. He has taught people of all ages not to be afraid to give back and to learn something about themselves in the process. In 2012, Mr. Sinclair founded the Global Community Initiative to broaden student education. Here he enlists guest speakers to share their perspectives from around the globe. He also encourages international students to share important holidays and events from their home countries to enlighten us all. He finds moments of time to help guide important conversations. One year, Mr. Sinclair provided proverbs for us to discuss during lunch. It seems sharing these moments add up to a larger understanding between cultures, even on a campus such as Cardigan's. In addition, this year he and his wife began teaching sex education classes. If it was anything like Monty Python's movie, The Meaning of Life, where a husband and wife team teach a sex ed class together, it must have been a profound and inspiring experience for the boys. Furthermore, Mr. Sinclair has given back to his colleagues by organizing a Thursday night hockey game. This has been a great outlet for faculty and friends to bond and learn more about one another while playing a fun, competitive game of hockey. Cardigan is a very challenging school for students and faculty alike. Initially, it can seem insurmountable to deal with the workload, traveling for practices, and for many, living with a roommate in a foreign country. Teachers like Mr. Sinclair ask students to contribute to tough discussions in GCI or stand up to the microphone in the dining hall and open up about one's life at home. In addition, he creates opportunities for us all to give back to the community on service trips. Coach Sinclair has his team sprint at the end of a tough practice, not for punishment, but to improve the conditioning of his team and to make them stronger hockey players. He believes that when one overcomes a challenging experience, it empowers the individual, and they will be rewarded with self-esteem, confidence, and the ability to triumph over adversity. Gentlemen, we expect a lot out of you, but this is for your own good, to make you better students, athletes, and positive contributors to society. Mr. Sinclair has made Cardigan a much better school because of his selfless desire to improve your education and help make you all young men of action. He lives by the core values, and he does his best to instill the importance of them in you. Please join me in thanking Mr. Sinclair for his 15 years of dedication to making countless student experiences at Cardigan Mountain School profound and meaningful. Thank you, Mr. Sinclair.
Next up is Cam Sear with the Blaze dedication.
Thank you, Hill. Every year, the Blaze dedication recognizes a faculty member who has devoted a tremendous amount of time and hard work for the growth and happiness of the boys here at Cardigan Mountain School. It honors a faculty member who is believed to have shown exemplary dedication and involvement in our community, and the graduating students select the recipient. We as a community are very grateful for all the things this teacher has done. Whether this is teaching math class or coaching hockey and lacrosse, he has truly been a great influence on the community for the 2 years he has been here, and hopefully more to come. We truly appreciate everything you do, and the future students will quickly appreciate it too. You make a big difference here on the Point. For the 2018-2019 school year, the Blaze dedication goes to Mr. Jangro.
Next up is Mr. Franco with the Cardigan hymn. Next up is Miss Bork with the benediction.
Thank you, Hugh, and congratulations to all the award winners. Now please join me in prayer, silent reflection. Father, thank you for this time of celebration. It is fitting for us as a community to honor excellence in all its myriad forms. Help us to remember that this excellence did not come without cost or sacrifice. As we salute the hard work and dedication of both students and faculty, may we be inspired to elevate our own labors. As we do, may compassion be the ship that we board together, integrity the compass that points our way, respect the line where our hands all join, and courage the sails that propel us forward into unknown waters, deeper and further than we ever dared dream. May our hearts be forever bound to this place, and may we carry its joyful spirit with us wherever we go. Amen.
You may sit down. Congratulations to the 9th grade students for all of your accomplishments this year. Please join me in giving them a round of applause.